A list of the topics, themes, and subject matter featured in this episode has been included in the episode description.
Hi, I'm Kenny, the DM for Fables of Frost and Fur, and I am joined by my lovely cast.
Kaylee.
Carmen.
Matt.
Carmen, what just happened?
So much. Heists, investigation, a lot of political intrigue that ended in explosive results.
Lovely. And once again, we thank each of our listeners. Thank you so much. And without further ado, please enjoy the show. Previously, on Fables of Frost and Fur, a week had passed after our party left the port city of Vanois. What started off as a quiet night around a campfire quickly turned into a series of revelations. Vianne revealed that Legant, a name that she has used to build a reputation in the underworld, was a real voice inside her head, a voice that had given her protection and power since she was a girl, and that voice had its own wants. Poppy discovered that her uncle Harlan had been harboring a secret from her, that he was a rhyme warden, one of the Queen's secret soldiers that operate in the shadows with great power and impunity. If discovered, he would be marked a traitor and hunted by his compatriots. As the night wound down, cooler heads prevailed, and the party came to an understanding and an agreement. Poppy needed to continue to get away from the Queen and her men, and Harlan and Vianne were the only people who could keep her safe for now. Emotionally spent, the party turned in for the night. In his dreams, Harlan was confronted with the painful consequences of choosing to reveal his identity. However, he was saved by the appearance of a black-furred wolf, the very wolf that appeared to him in a vision when he first pledged the oath of the Rhyme Warden. The bleach white expanse spans in every direction around Harlan. A frozen lake stretching into the horizon as far as the eye can see, underneath brilliant, cloudless blue skies. He doesn't know what it is at first, because it's been so long. But he begins to feel cold. The wind picks up, biting against his skin, and it becomes unbearable. He drops onto one knee, clutching his arms, trying to shield himself from the biting wind. And then it stops. And he opens his eyes to find in front of him a massive black-furred wolf blocking the wind for him. And it turns its head and it gazes into Harlan's eyes. And it gets closer, closes its eyes, and it tilts its head towards Harlan.
You've been there from the very beginning.
The wolf nods, and it nudges Harlan with its massive nose, and then a gentle lick against his hand.
What does it mean?
You stare into this creature's eyes, and you feel in your heart of hearts that it doesn't speak to you not because it doesn't want to, but because it cannot. You feel this tugging in your heart of a creature that should be boundless and free, but has not experienced that joy in a long, long time. You feel immense power from this creature, a sense of knowing, a sense of loving towards you, like a mother wolf to a pup. And as you remove your hand from her face, the ice starts to crack. It starts small, tiny little cracks underneath your feet until they stretch wide across the both of you. The wolf panics, but before she can move, the ice snaps, and from underneath the surface, holes explode, and iron chains fly out from underneath the lake and wrap themselves around the she-wolf. She yelps in pain. The chains tighten around her, and they pull her down onto her haunches. And as they do so, Harlan can feel the biting cold of the queen.
Arlo reaches for his sword, but it's not there. So he gets onto his knees and grabs the chains and tries to open them with his bare hands.
They bite into his skin, freezing cold, and they don't move. And the wolf turns her head and tries to nudge him, as if to say, "Don't. It's better if you don't."
He lets go. He says something he infrequently says. What do I do?
The scene shifts to a windowless room in the middle of nowhere as Vianne swishes her skirts to turn around, and she sees in the middle of this room is a single light on the ceiling, illuminating a figure in a chair. The figure has its back towards Vianne, and it slowly turns around to face her. And she is greeted by the sight of herself at 14 years old. Her dress filthy and torn, her hair matted and unwashed, her face feral and scared. But that expression of fear twists and contorts into a jeer. Oh, I was being pleasant to them because it is more advantageous for them to think that I care about their well-being. But I did not tell you to reveal us, little kit.
Vianne is not afraid in this dream of the voice of her patron. She is afraid of what she is going to say to the 14-year-old version of herself. Didn't you promise me a good life?
I promised you freedom. I promised you a life of delicious things. So long as you listened to me. And you, little kit, have been so good for decades. And I'm just a little confused as to what has changed. Have I not taken care of you? Have I not been there for you? In the toughest years of your life, I have protected you. I am your only friend. Why would you do this to me?
You have no friends, and I have not known freedom with you.
Be careful, little kit. Be very, very careful. I will only say this once. Let me make this unambiguous for you. You will take the girl to Artois. You will stand at the gates and await my instructions. And then you will continue to listen to me forever. That was the deal that you made, little kit. And you can't take that back.
Vian feels not that this is a dream, but that this is a vision. And she's hearing the voice that has played in her mind coming out of the face of this tear-streaked image of herself. And right now she only feels pity.
Oh, little kit. You are on very, very thin ice. Do not disappoint me. I can hurt you in ways that you can never imagine. Ta-ta. And the vision blacks out as we hear the sound of gentle waves as Poppy takes one step and then another on top of the surface of the water, an act that she realizes now means that she's not in the wondrous sea, but rather she's simply seeing into it, that she can peer behind this veil that splits the material world from the wondrous sea, the sea of magic and life and mystery. And as she takes a few more steps, from the distance she sees swirling waves, ominous and angry, coming towards her as the head of a snake surfaces, barreling its way towards her as it opens its gaping maw, ready to swallow her whole.
There's no water. There's no sensation of being plunged through endless depths. And there's no fear. Distantly, in the back of Poppy's mind, as she looks across the wondrous sea, all she can think about is a lonely king cutting himself to prove that there's no real danger. And Poppy sprints towards the serpent, challenging it instead.
She barrels towards it, full sprint, her powerful hairkin legs propelling her faster than she's ever known. And just as they're about to collide, the snake veers off to the right and sinks back into the depths. Soft padding can be heard from behind Poppy. She turns around to see a beautiful white nine-tailed fox, the same one that she saw the night that she took the life of her mother's murderer. It pads its way towards her, calm, friendly, and it sits down on its haunches and says, "Good, you're learning. You have to not be afraid of them. They feed on your fear, even when you're not actually here."
But I still don't know what any of this means. Who are you?
Go south, girl. That's where you'll find a cure for this.
A cure?
To turn back human.
That's my only option?
Isn't that what you wish?
I don't know. Direction, I think, would be a first step. Outside of just these ominous... Sorry. Everyone's telling me to go south. But I haven't been told really why.
So he hasn't spoken to you yet? You don't know what you're here for. Oh, you poor thing. You poor, poor thing. Only love can set you free. Poppy feels a surging in her chest. Those words imprinting themselves upon her mind. And she loses it. Her emotions run rampant. The ground gives way underneath her feet. And she plunges into the dark depths of the wondrous sea. She sinks until finally she opens her eyes and staring up in the sky above the waters, the face of a lion. And then she snaps to, she is no longer underwater, but instead 5 feet in the air. She crashes onto the ground She gets up. She looks around. She doesn't know where she is. She's being stared at. She's in the middle of a town, and it's bright daylight. There are hairkins staring at her.
Well, don't climb trees that you don't have a good footing on. That's what I just learned. She reaches out a hand to one of the hairkin that are around her. A woman, probably no more than 5 years older than herself. You wouldn't mind telling me, what time it is? See, I've been trying to get something from that tree right there for a few hours now.
Yes, of course, mademoiselle. It's, I believe, just 2 hours past sunrise? I'm sorry, who are you?
Propella.
Oh, do you work in the woods? I've never seen you around. The woman is gorgeous, in all sense of the word. She has deep brown hair, dark skin, and these piercing blue eyes. And the tips of her hairkin ears have a tuft of white fur on them. They twitch a bit as she sort of reaches out a hand to you and tries to help you up.
Yes, I do work here. Quite new, so learning the ropes.
New? Oh, you must be one of the new hairkin that Marquis has brought in. I'm Aliette. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Aliette, pleasure is all mine. I do think there's somewhere I'm supposed to be right now. I got a little distracted by the tree.
Well, yes, of course there's somewhere you're supposed to be. As she takes her hands and she dabbles them, cleans them off on her apron, you can see that she's wearing servant's attire. You would recognize this as some of the households in Ardeno, in your home village, owned slaves. And typically, the general outfit for a slave was this sort of muted green color with some sort of white apron. You recognize her as someone who is probably quite posh. Her hands don't seem particularly calloused. You could probably tell that she works in a household somewhere. Well, yes, of course you're supposed to be somewhere. The Marquis called a meeting in the town hall. Come, you are going to be late.
Absolutely.
Poppy turns and looks around. She can see that the vast majority of people in this little town that is very modern Grendelian infrastructure are hairkin. And only a few scruffy, rough-looking men in particular, wearing jet black coats, are human. These men, you can see, have wooden sticks that they are using to threaten several people in getting to the town hall.
Immediately sensing the danger that these men exude, her hand on instinct reaches behind her back to reach for the bow. But it's not there. There's no quiver. There's no bundle of arrows. There's not an especially important one from Lucas himself. And she feels almost naked without it.
As she notices this, she takes her cloak and she bundles it around herself, puts her hood up, and she looks at Aliette.
It's to the center of town then, right? I'm sure you're needing to be there as well.
We all are, yes. You must not know where it is. Here, come with me. And she holds out an elbow and awaits for Poppy's arm.
Looping her arm in the elbow. With more confidence than she feels, she matches the other woman's stride and tries to embody the kind of demure attitude that the woman has.
The camera pans back to a campfire, long put out, as the sun has risen, and as Harlan and Vienne open their eyes.
Still feeling strangely chilled, Harlan looks up and, as is his habit, he looks immediately to where Poppy sleeps. And is shocked to see no one there. Pip-Pop? He bolts up, shakes Vienne awake.
What?
I don't see her. Well, maybe she ran off. I don't know. He starts looking to see if there are any tracks leading anywhere, but he knows she's so good at not leaving tracks, but he's going to try to find some.
Harlan, Her bow is still here. She didn't leave. Oh, was she taken? How could we not hear it?
There's no way that she could have been taken without putting up some kind of fight, unless it was magic or something.
Vienne whistles sharply. She is holding her breath under control as she looks to the skies. You there! I know you're out there.
It takes a second, but from the crystal clear blue skies, the two of you spot, moving faster than it should, a bird fly down and with unnatural grace slow itself down and perch itself onto Vienne's hand.
Don't think I forgot what you said to me. Look, we still need each other, And I need you to help us find the girl.
The creature blinks its many, many eyes in rapid succession.
Okay. Harlan?
He looks distracted.
I will need you to keep my body safe. With no further explanation, the energy of her consciousness flows through her fingers, through the wet feet of this bird, rippling with a shimmering green-blue through its many, many eyes. And then they blink in unison at Harlan. And Vienne goes slack. But the bird takes off into the trees.
As the bird soars, Vienne feels a discombobulation, a disorientation, a feeling of vertigo as she soars high, high above the tree line, higher than she ever thought possible. As she gazes out through multiple eyes in every single direction, and as she does so, she pinpoints, not too far away, the settlement of Lorraine, which both she and Harlan know that the southern road will go through. And as she flies closer and closer, she spots her. Just a little speck of green cloak. As she swoops down, she sees Poppy, arm in arm with a woman she doesn't recognize. But Poppy doesn't seem panicked, nor do the guards in black seem concerned by her presence. All the other beastskin seem to be harekin, and they are all starting to gather around a plaza and filing into a large building in the center of this settlement. The building is made of stone. It's almost a sort of fortification, a place a militia might go to rally and grab arms in the event of an attack, a place where families, women, and children might hole up in the event of a disaster or an attack. And she can see that these harekin are calmly filing in, being ushered in by these men in black coats.
It takes all of Vienne's mental fortitude to project her mind into this bird. The gaze of two minds connecting her across time and place, and through its eyes, she attempts to connect to Poppy's mind. Poppy. She can hear Vienne's voice in her head. I can see you. Are you okay? We can come for you.
Out loud, Poppy addresses Vienne's question, but in a way to let Vienne in on their conversation and whatever details come next. Friend, it's a beautiful day to be walking, and I feel amazing and like I could do so much. It's such a shame we're being called to where we're going. And where is that again, by the way?
It's a supposedly emergency meeting. Severin called it. Have you met him yet? He's our echevant.
Yeah, I have. Like I said, I've been here a few years, just new here, specifically. And she turns her head away now. She's never been a good liar.
Yes, well, Severin is not a man of many words, so I assume he won't have much to say, but I do think it might not be pleasant for all of us if we're all being called. The Marquis has been irate of late. I hear him whenever I clean the floors in the chateau. He is very angry. I fear he may take it out on us.
What happened to make him so angry?
You haven't heard the explosion in Vanois? The Marquis was furious about it.
Poppy, do not say anything. Keep yourself outside so that the bird can keep an eye on you. I have to go back into my own body now, do you understand? Keep yourself visible, but stay out of trouble. We'll be there as soon as we can.
In her mind, Poppy only thinks, you two stay out of trouble.
When Vian ends the connection, it feels like she is emerging from a baptism, layers of water washing over her mind as she emerges back into her own body. And she stares at Harlan. She's in Lorraine.
He's gathered himself more now. All right. Is she all right? Is there any immediate danger?
There's some sort of confluence happening in the center of town. There's a hairkin woman who has offered her help, but something is bad.
Was there any indication of what took her? How she ended up there?
No.
We should get there as quickly as possible.
I've left the bird circling. I've told her to stay outside. But I can't re-engage her in the same way unless the bird comes back to me. Do you understand?
I'll
pack. Get ready, okay?
Right. He walks to the edge of the forest, not at all sure that this will work. He calls in his mind to an old friend.
He feels a sharp pain in the base of his skull. And it starts light and then it grows until it engulfs his entire brain and he collapses on his knees. Matt, roll a Constitution saving throw for me.
That is a 6.
The pain is so intense. It shoots down his spine and into his stomach. And in a split second, he's lost everything that he has eaten. He retches down onto the forest floor, and then the pain is gone.
Harlan, are you all right?
Oh, he considers lying for a second, and he says, I don't know. No, I don't think I am. And then he reaches out, tries to see if what he was trying worked.
From the edge of the forest, Vian hears the faint sounds of hooves. And it echoes throughout the forest. And then she feels a bit of a chill. And upon this chill, she turns to find a gray horse, beautiful, with simple barding, emerge from behind the trees and trot its way over to Harlan, where it turns its head down and it nudges him in affection.
There's a moment of relief. He grabs the horse's head close to his own. Hey there, boy. It's good to see you. Alfie. This is a new friend. Her name's Veering.
Almost as if this animal understands the words coming out of Harlan's mouth. The horse trots its way over to Vian, almost with the excitement of a dog, as it leans its head down and nuzzles her a little too hard on her cheek.
All right, I know you don't like this, boy, but you're going to have to carry both of us for a little bit. We're going to go faster a bit.
The horse whinnies in protest.
I know. It won't be long. It's not that far. But we just need to get there fast.
Vian buries their camp supplies quickly under a hasty cover of leaves. With prestidigitation, she leaves a mark on the tree so that they can find it again. And leaving with Poppy's bow and only their most essentials, she allows Harlan to help her onto the horse. With some strange feeling in her heart at the word friend. They take off down out of the woods, across the open countryside under the blazing, fresh autumn morning, and into the city they swore they would avoid.
As Poppy continues to the center of the town, arm in arm, there's a moment where she thinks, this is most definitely real. She had wondered over and over if this was another hallucination, another dream, another vision she was being sent. But at Vianne's intrusion and giving herself a slight pinch on the hand and definitely feeling the pain, reality sinks in. At first, there's panic, but that quickly morphs into determination. There's a story here, secrets that need to be unveiled, and Poppy desperately wants to be the one to do it.
She walks into the town hall and is surrounded by people who look just like her. Everywhere she looks, fur in a variety of places, ears of every size, shape, and orientation. Although the faces here are worn, tired, beaten down, and broken, she feels a sense of kinship and belonging, and they shuffle her forward. From on top of a platform at the far end of this town hall is a wooden dais. And standing on top of it, Poppy sees a man, a hairkin, but dressed finer than everyone else in this town hall. His coat, this blue that looks like it was once a glorious royal blue color, but has now since faded to time. Perhaps something that was a hand-me-down or something that he found that he thought would make him look more menacing or authoritative. He has a scowl on his face, framed by this messy head of long blonde hair with deep, deep brown eyes that stare daggers into each of his fellow kin. And as the doors close behind you and the hairkin around you quiet themselves, he speaks up. I'm sure you all know of the rumors surrounding what happened in Vanois a week ago. I regret to inform you all that the Marquis has declared a state of emergency. You are all to drop all of your duties and immediately begin to work at unloading the contents of the basement underneath the chateau, as well as the surrounding tunnels of storage around the settlement. There are carriages, wagons, and caravans prepared to depart from here. You will load each of these vehicles with as many crates as you can fit on them. Now, I must insist, you all know, I know you all know, what is in these crates. You will be very, very careful when you handle these. But I cannot stress enough that time is of the essence. The Marquis is incredibly displeased, and I don't think I need to tell you what he and I will do to you if we continue to be displeased. Hushed whispers spread like wildfire amongst the crowd around you. Aliette turns to you. It's worse than we feared then.
Where will they be headed, do you know?
No, usually only a handful of them, usually the blackcoats, go with the wagons south after the crates reach here. But they're leading us all. That must mean that we have to clear out the entire inventory. Oh, that's going to take all day.
Well, I guess we should all be glad that I'm quite strong. I wouldn't mind going down there and being the first one to offload everything.
You would volunteer? Are you mad?
Well, as I see it, if we don't get started soon, they're gonna start getting real angry.
Yes, before she can continue that thought, almost as if on cue, a group of blackcoats appear at the entrance in which you came from. The man on the pedestal, whom you have surmised is the echevin Severin, declares loudly, "Now, for those of you who work more than half the day, you get an additional half ration for dinner tonight. I will take volunteers now." And at this, you see some of the larger hairkin men immediately perk up and they make their way towards the back of the crowd. What does Poppy do?
As a larger hairkin man moves out to step in front of her, Poppy deftly sticks out a foot and trips him in order to gain a step ahead of him and start making her way quicker and nimbler than the more beefy types to the front of the line.
He lands on his nose and he curses. Ah, I want tits that hurt. Turns around and looks at Poppy and he glares daggers. What are you doing, stupid woman?
Poppy's already a few steps ahead, and as she turns back to look at him, she goes, I'm securing some rations for myself, and moves quicker.
When she reaches the front, several of the other hairkin men turn and look at her. They give her confused and then disgusted looks. And they start whispering among themselves, definitely loud enough for Poppy to hear. What is this woman doing standing in line with us? She should go back to cleaning dishes and laundry.
Woman or not, I can help. And it looks like we're a bit on a time crunch. Would you really want to disappoint the Marquis in such a way that you wouldn't take the offered help?
You dare speak back to me? Where is your father or your husband? I will have words with him.
Dead, I'm afraid.
You're nothing but a rascal, then. Surprised you aren't at the whorehouse already. And he turns and ignores Poppy. Poppy has heard tales, stories of the Beastkin people south of the Wildlands. She has heard in passing, in her days in a classroom in Ardenneau, of the Queen of Grendel and her vision, Mission Civilisatrice, civilizing mission. Stories of how Queen Inga justifies her cruelty by painting the Beastkin people as brutes, uncivilized, and backwards. And she is shocked to witness and experience this firsthand.
The plan was for Poppy to take on a role that she hadn't usually done before. Assertive, confident, very much like a companion that she had recently met. This didn't seem to be the time or place to move in that direction. So changing gears, Poppy quickly slips between the chaos and confusion of the crowd and tries to stealthily make her way to the chateau before the volunteers can get there.
Carmen, I want you to give me a stealth check. With disadvantage, you are in full sight of everyone.
I would like to use my heroic inspiration to nullify it. Poppy is going to utilize the confusion, stepping on people's toes to get them to shout, and try to create more chaos in order to slip away between it.
Absolutely. Give me a stealth check. No disadvantage or advantage.
Got it. 15.
As the chaos of the crowd ensues and you can see these hairkin fight for these extra rations, somehow Poppy ducks underneath a black coat's coattails and slips right out. She sees that this settlement is indeed empty now. Not too far, she can see a massive structure, a giant chateau with gilded railings of gold painted a brilliant blue that admittedly looks a little more dilapidated than what it probably should look in its heyday. This is a home that was clearly someone's pride and joy, a statement piece here in these wild lands. But it has seen better days, and no one is standing around there.
There's enough hairkin that Poppy doesn't think she has to worry about standing out in that way. And unfortunately, the green cloak has now been spotted by quite a few individuals. So with a bit more reluctance than perhaps she should have at this moment in time, she takes off the very familiar fabric and dumps it in the nearest alley before making her way into the chateau.
We turn back to the sound of galloping hooves, a blistering sight through the green forest leaves as dust kicks up behind Harlan and Vianne. Vianne is positioned up front with Harlan behind, one arm around her waist and another arm around his reins.
As he sees Lorraine come into view, wordlessly, without even pulling on the reins, the horse slows. Alright, we can't go galloping into there drawing a bunch of attention. And he dismounts. We're just walking in, casual like.
Something isn't casual inside this town right now. Vian gestures for help to get down from Alfie. She pats appreciatively at the horse. Look, it's going to be very helpful having a rhyme warden by our side. But we are too conspicuous right now.
What are you talking about? I'm just merchant traveling south.
Not much further south to go.
There's still goods to be had in Lorraine. It's all right.
Vian gestures back towards the sky. She points out the bird and flicks her wrist towards her, as if pulling it along an invisible string until it comes within 100 feet. She re-engages with its vision. A lighter, less demanding task this way. But she still stumbles on her feet as she loses sight in her body. And as she looks through the bird's eyes, scoping through the streets of Lorraine, she catches a glimpse of a green cloak dumped in an alley. Harlan, we've lost her. I don't know where she is.
We're not gonna solve anything by running in there panic.
No, you're right. You're right.
She's smart enough. She's gonna keep herself out of trouble. It's not gonna go charging right into it.
Just displaced merchants, like the rest of them from Venma, yes?
That's right. Trying to do some business. That's all.
As the two of you walk into town with Alfie in tow, a man on horseback emerges from around a building. He looks gruff, about Harlan's age, his face worn. Harlan can see the hollowness in his eyes. This is a man who has seen conflict and who has tried very hard not to be broken by it. You see his tan skin gleaming in the sun as he approaches. Wow, I'm sorry, but we are not expecting guests in the settlement of Lorraine right now.
Not expecting guests. We're coming through. Got a little trade to do. That's all.
Trade?
Trade. You all need things down here, I know that. I can provide.
The man gets off of his horse and he approaches you, his long duster flowing in the wind. His well-worn combat boots stop right in front of you. He reaches into his duster and he pulls out a little notepad. No. We weren't expecting anyone today at all. I'm sorry, but the town is off limits. You must leave.
Never needed an invitation to come into Lorraine before.
Monsieur, I don't know if you've heard, but there's a lockdown in Vanois and the ports surrounding it. The settlements further south, like us, we have to be very careful. The Pat Rouge could be anywhere. I want you to give me an insight check.
That's a 12.
That is a 21.
Vian is feeling incredibly anxious, and she just can't really focus too much on the way that the man is saying these things, just the fact that he is trying to deny them entry. Harlan notices this man is a well-trained liar. He is lying, especially about the Pat Rouge.
Pat Rouge? What kind of talk is that?
Monsieur, you are in great danger by being here. I do suggest you turn around and head back north to the safety of Vanois.
If I'm in danger by being in this area, you're saying I'd be safer to take another 7 days wandering back up through those woods?
Please, monsieur. Would you deny safe harbor to a merchant and his wife?
He grabs his face in the palm of his hand and he just rubs his temples and says, look, you seem pretty reasonable, the two of you. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I'm just doing my job. Please don't make this any harder than it has to be.
We've been traveling for days.
All right, fine. Just stay. You leave in the morning?
Yeah, we'll leave in the morning. Doesn't sound like there's gonna be...
All right, come in. You see that building right there?
Yeah.
That is, or was, the guest house. Right now, it's empty. So why don't you go ahead and make yourselves comfortable, and I will be right with you shortly, okay?
You're gonna come in and check on us?
Yes. I should have introduced myself. I am Esteban, and I am the captain of the Blackcoats here. And you will listen to my authority while you are here in this settlement. Do you understand?
Harlan is looking at his sword.
You recognize that saber and that carbine rifle anywhere. This man was a dragoon, one of the Queen's finest light cavalry.
He jingles the hilt of his sword so I can see it. Hey, is one old veteran to another. We're okay.
I just want to get paid. Just don't cause any trouble for me.
I don't want to prevent you from getting paid.
All right, now you go. There should be some food still in there. I can't say that it's probably not stale, but there should be bread in there.
We've had worse.
Gods know we have. Queen provides. Am I right?
Queen provides.
All right, now go. Off with you. I got stuff to do, but I will check on you shortly, and then whatever business you have, I could bring you up with the echelon, okay? Unless you're here to do business with the Marquis, but let me tell you, he is not in a good mood right now.
Oh, that sounds like something I don't want any part of.
No, I don't think you do. Esteban takes one more look at Harlan, and he sort of gently punches him on the shoulder. He gestures to Harlan's horse and says, that is a mighty fine steed you've got there, monsieur.
Yeah, he is.
If I didn't know any better, I'd say he was trained for war myself.
Yeah. He ain't gonna run the panic. I don't know how much better he is than that.
Still a fine quality to have. You take care of him. Oh, and your wife.
Yeah, I'll try.
All right, off you go then. And he sort of ushers you towards this guest house. The guest house is a wooden structure. It looks quite old, but it's made of very fine wood, varnished on the outside and protected against the elements. You can see that this place is something that would have housed nobility in its day, something that was built for visiting gentry as a quaint escape to the countryside, away from the big city, away from all the smells of the summer, where they can go and get fresh air out here in the wildlands and spend time riding horses or playing croquet or whatever it is that they want to do to take time away from the season in the city. It has also fallen into disrepair. You see broken windows, you see some broken railings on some of the balconies, and generally speaking, it just looks fairly abandoned. The door is ajar. It wasn't closed to begin with. And as you walk inside, you find that you are indeed quite alone. It is a 2-story building, and as you check each room, they're each empty. The beds are made, but they are dusty.
Well, he is gonna come back and check on us.
Not if we're out before then.
I don't know if that'd be better or worse.
Deanna's going to start tying the bridle of this beautiful gray steed towards the horse mount by the front door. And you can see that in every gesture that she's ever had, it's always grace and confidence and self-assurance. But the panic of losing Poppy and the frustration of never having tied a practical knot before in her life, she is making a solid mess of it. And she just throws the reins against it and then hands them to Harlan. I need you to do this.
Well, all right. Wait a minute. Where'd you see that cloak?
Well, I saw it from about 60 feet above, so let me... Vian tries to place herself. It's such a disorienting perception game, but she traces the map that she had seen through the eyes of the bird along the streets. And she walks but half a block away before she can point it out. Harlan, it's here. It's here. It's not even dirty yet.
As she says this, the two of you spot a mass of hairkin exiting from the center of town and all making their way to either the chateau that you can see that is across from the center of the settlement, or, a little more conspicuously, a few of them walk over to these innocuous double doors that are on the ground. They look like they should lead to a root cellar where they would leave things to cool. And you see many, many of them. And all of them are opened. And you see these hairkin just filing down inside of them. As you see this, you see men in black coats, both human and a few hairkin themselves, start to berate these hairkin and start to beat them with these wooden rods that they're holding, getting them to go faster.
That damn needle in a haystack. Can you, look like you're doing poorly?
Like I'm doing poorly?
Yeah.
I understand. You need a damsel in distress, don't you? And you're not willing to play the part yourself?
We just need a reason to have not awaited our host.
Of course. What would you rather have, injury or illness?
Illness.
Perfect. Vianne casts a simple modification to the disguise that she wears all the time. And as she takes a seat back up on top of this beautiful horse, the coloration in her skin is green. Her hair looks flat and pallid. Her hands are trembling and wet with an illusion, of course. It does somewhat harm her vanity to look this way before a crowd, but she plays the part well. Oh, Harlan, I feel like I'm going to be ill.
It's all right, dear. Well, let's go see if we can find you some help.
The camera pans back as Poppy enters the chateau. She is greeted with the sight of opulence abandoned. The gold trim that is there is covered in grease and dust and cobwebs. The floor is dusty, and there are paintings missing from where they should be. But it is, for the most part, empty. Until a man steps out from a side room. This hairkin has deep-set eyes with bags under them that complements the dark color of his hair and his ears. And he's wearing what looks to be a black coat, but this isn't one of the coats of the mercenaries outside. This is a servant's coat. This is a butler's coat. And he turns and looks at Poppy and says, "You, what are you doing here? You should be going out and helping the others. What are you doing?"
I was told to come here first. We're supposed to assess the situation first, then pick which would be best handed out to whoever may come. We're trying to move quickly here, right? So a bit of organization never hurt anyone.
Amazing. Give me a persuasion check with advantage.
It's a natural 19, and Poppy's persuasion is a whopping 0. So that'll be a 19.
The stressed out hairkin butler looks at you and says, "Oh, they never tell me anything. All right, go down. Take the first stairs to the basement, and you go and assess. When will they be here?"
They're on their way, from what I've been told.
Oh, Kaiwa, help me. All right, go. Off with you, go.
Yep.
And he sprints to the next room.
And she sprints to the basement, quicker than she's ever run before. And in her head, the only mantra that's being replayed is, "Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing?"
She opens the door to the basement and she goes down the steps. And to her surprise, the moment she opens the door, the wood that leads down to this basement is very much unlike any of the opulence she saw upstairs. This seems like it could lead down to a mine shaft. And as she walks down the stairs and takes one look ahead, she realizes she may very well be in a mine shaft. Tunnels dug out in the ground span out as far as she can see. Dirt and stone line the floor and the walls, and she can see just rows and rows of wooden crates of various sizes all the way through this tunnel.
Poppy has grown up cleaning guns, putting them back in their casing, putting arrows back where they belong, just knowing general organization like the back of her hand. Parsing through these different boxes, these different shipments, I think she'd be able to tell which ones are locked up more preciously than others, which ones are placed to avoid eyesight more than others, and be able to seek out ones that are more important.
Carmen, give me an investigation check.
The 4 + 2 for a 6.
With a 6, she looks through so many boxes, but she finds just such a random assortment of things, from old paintings to some preserved food to pieces of furniture that are in scraps in these boxes. And she continues to rifle through them as the camera pans back to Harlan and Vianne. Harlan and Vianne see that out of the little cellars in the ground, they start to see Hairkin, men and women, start to carry large, seemingly heavy boxes out of them. And as they walk towards the edge of town, you can spot a multitude of wagons, carriages, and all sorts of wheeled vehicles lined up and ready to be packed. As the Hairkin move in a slow but methodical pace, taking a lot of care to not bump into each other, and most certainly not dropping the boxes.
Under her breath, Vianne whispers to Harlan. She leans down as he walks beside the horse. Have you ever seen such disadvantaged people take such care?
Only if they're afraid of being beaten. But even then, now this is unusual. Like they're afraid of what's inside of them.
Vianne's mind is spinning as she watches this hum of sober activity around them. Those wagons are pointing south. She doesn't know what it means yet, but she is gathering as much of it as she can into her mind and desperately, desperately hoping that that bird can catch a sight of Poppy.
And in Harlan's head, he thinks back to the conversation with Pastor, and he thinks of the explosion on the docks. And he sees one Hairkin. She stumbles a bit before catching herself. And he sees the reaction of everyone around her. And he mutters, yeah, I think we ought to be careful around those things.
As he says this, 2 blackcoats furiously sprints up to the woman, and they start to beat her mercilessly with these wooden rods as she screamed out, I'm so sorry, please, no more. And they beat her, and they beat her. And then in the end, they force her back up on her feet, and they point back down the cellar. And she bundles herself up in tears, and she slowly makes her way down the steps once more.
I don't see her anywhere. I don't think she's up here.
She may have been trying to blend in. She's probably following the others.
Oh, well, there's a couple places she could have gone. I see them coming out of. Yeah, there's too many places.
He can see around him that there are 2 cellar doors in the open that Hairkin are moving in and out from. But he also sees some other Hairkin going into the chateau, whose doors are now wide open.
Oh, boy. Pip-pop.
And at this, the camera pans back to Poppy as she is now impatiently rifling through all sorts of things in a variety of boxes until she reaches one that is sealed very shut.
Oh, where's Rayanne when you need her? Poppy will see if there's any way to loosen the mechanism that seals it. Is it a lock or is it just firm wood?
As she searches around the rim of the crate, she can see that it is in fact just very tightly nailed on.
Pulling a dagger from one of her inside shirt pockets. Didn't seem to get lost in the teleportation since it was on her body. She deftly wedges it between the rim of the box and the rest of the structure and tries to pry it open.
Carmen, I want you to give me a strength check.
That's an 11. I have 0 strength.
Oh.
Well, with an 11, it takes some effort, but she does, in fact, pry open the cover of this crate. Peering inside, she sees a curious sight. The moment she cracked it open, light illuminating from inside the crate as she opens it to find piles of colorful, glowing stones.
The light of the glow shines on her face. There's stomping from floors above her, and there is very little time. The last time Poppy used or tried to peer into anything like this, things went woefully wrong. But the light, the glistening, and the pressing danger that she will find herself in if she doesn't do something quickly is all very overwhelming. So calming her mind and closing her eyes, Poppy channels the sound of crashing waves and endless night as she attempts to peer into the wondrous sea.
In an instant, her vision blacks out as she is transported through time and space, and as she takes a single step onto the gentle waves of the wondrous sea. In the place of where these stones were in the material world, she sees the water rising above. As she looks down where this hallway would be, she sees effervescent mist formulating bubbles of water floating around her.
It's beautiful. It's daunting. It's a sight she's never seen before. And perhaps naively, Poppy reaches a hand out to touch one.
As her hands touch the surface of the bubble, she finds it to be a solid mass of water that she can feel. And she tries to push against it, but it doesn't budge. It is fixed in space. This bubble of water from the wondrous sea, trapped here in this spot.
Well, I hope you stay here now.
And before she can gather her thoughts, in the corner of her eye, she sees a bear, massive, more massive than a bear should be, pad its way towards her menacingly, teeth bared as it growls towards her.
There is wetness. There is sensation. But Poppy remembers the fox telling her not to feel fear or not to show it. She steps in front of the glowing aqueous orbs and faces the bear.
The bear growls as it leans its head down. Its face inches away from Poppy, and then it huffs, and it turns around and pads away.
I think I've overstayed my welcome. And Poppy looks around, but is suddenly at a loss for what to do. She has always been forced out of the sea, rejected, never on her own accord. And as she takes in the vastness around her, the idea that she has created a one-way door with no hope of knowing how to leave hits her. She closes her eyes, hoping to channel that energy that brought her here back and reverse it so she is able to leave.
A panic rises in her heart for just a moment as nothing happens. And then, with a clarity of mind and a confidence renewed, she opens her eyes and is back in the cellar in the exact same spot that she left.
And the stones are gone. Poppy reseals the lid, pushing down with as much strength as she can manage, before trying to take different corridors out of these winding mineshaft-like halls. No part of her wants to retrace the steps she took before, in fear of someone following her.
As she progresses through, she starts to hear the sounds of other hairkin getting closer and closer, and then she hears the sounds of wheels on dirt. And then she can start to feel a sort of gentle breeze coming down one of the corridors, and she follows it. Before she turns the corner, she can hear the hairkin, and she sees that the concentration of these crates has increased, and now she is surrounded by crates of them, some of them in disarray, some of them completely sealed. And she looks around and she sees that light is seeping out of a few of them. There are a lot here.
Poppy will pick up a crate and walk out like she's been doing this the whole time.
She walks past the corridor and she spots some other hairkin, men and women, all laboriously lifting these crates up these stairs. And they glance once at Poppy and then they ignore her.
She follows the sounds of crates moving, people talking, and boots shuffling, hoping to find her way out.
As she makes her way up the top of the stairs, the light of the noon sun hits her face, and she can see dozens of hairkin moving and hustling to pack these crates onto these vehicles.
All right, I think that she may have gone to the chateau, so we're going to have to figure out a way to sneak inside and...
Is that Poppy?
Oh, she's carrying a crate.
Oh! Vian slips down off the horse and tries to act casual.
Poppy, who had immediately scoured the area upon exiting, quickly catches Harlan's eye, and just for a fraction of a second, her own eyes widen.
Harlan just silently mouths, "What are you doing?"
Vian forgets that she has telepathic abilities, and she is also whispering at Poppy right now from across the street.
Poppy, who has done so much lying today, and somehow, by the skin of her teeth, been able to get through this far alive, ignores them, doesn't want to risk having to do any more performances. But she, kind of with more restrained aggression, jerks the box just a little bit so as not to gain attention from the guards, but trying to emphasize that this is very important and not normal. Any way to direct attention to that box.
There's a half second where he just stares at her, then he goes, "Wait a minute, can't you just like talk in her head or something?"
Oh, of course. Hi, Poppy. What are you doing?
I am carrying a box right now, Vian, and I will say there are dozens identical to this in the basement. And they've got very glowing, very ominous stones inside.
Can you find a way to gently set the box down and meet us away from the crowds? Pardon, she's found a job.
Just found a what?
I think I have to take this box to the carriage.
She's determined to do a very good job of carrying the box all the way to the carriages.
Well, then that might not be the worst idea. She can find out where the carriage is going.
Poppy, you should find out exactly what is in these crates and where they are going. Harlan and I are going to be just around the corner, all right? Look for the horse.
Uncle Harlan has a horse? And she begins following the exact line of hairkin, making the exact same track as her.
She walks towards the edge of the settlement, and there is a long convoy of wheeled vehicles of all kinds. You see some farming equipment there, wheelbarrows that are all lined up and all being packed full of these crates. And as Poppy walks towards the front, she sees a man on a horse. And this man looks very different from the other black coats. His face a little more worn, a little less rambunctious and rude and full of himself. He just looks tired. And he is awaiting at the head of this caravan as he just sort of sits on his horse, gazing off into the distance. Poppy gets a feeling that he is asking the question, where did I go wrong?
And Poppy feels that exact question herself as she mimics the behavior of every other servant hairkin. And as she gets closer to the carriage, she gently places the box alongside the others before shooting the man a look. I am wondering how you're gonna keep them from bumping into each other on the very long trek too. And she tries to trail off in a way that sometimes self-righteous people feel the need to finish the sentence.
And he absolutely is one of these people, which is why, Carmen, you are going to give me a performance check with advantage.
Use that +0. Come on.
It was an 11 or a 2. Those are the only numbers I can roll today, somehow. So it's an 11.
With an 11, the man regards you, and he just sighs. What do you care? They're going to Champs de Soleil. I mean, where have you been, girl? We send everything there.
No, I know. I was gonna finish the sentence. I was a little...
Now, how are they going to prevent them from bumping into each other? Gods, I don't know. This... And he pulls out from his duster a little flask, unseals it, and he takes a very long swig. This could be my last ride. I don't know.
That was my next question. Aren't you worried that if something goes wrong, you're next on the line?
Oh, gods, of course I know I'm worried, but job's a job. You, little mademoiselle, have a job to get back to. Now go on, get.
I understand. Just worried about you. I mean, the contents of these... And she is prodding for more information.
Give me one more performance check.
No. Another 11. What is going on? I wish I was joking.
Because he is getting a little sauced, I'm going to roll for the man.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Come on.
He rolled a 6.
Yes!
Oh.
He's so done.
As an insight check, he rolled a 6. And he has 0 insight as to what Poppy is doing, but he is so over it. What? The Glimmerstone? I don't know what to say, mademoiselle. Why do I work for this man? Why do I work with dangerous things like this? I just want to retire somewhere with a cabin and my horse, and I just want to own chickens one day. Why am I here?
There's a million questions on Poppy's mind. What is a Glimmerstone? How many times has a man made you carry devices like this? And is the man the Echelon she met earlier? But she knows when to stop. And she turns away and leaves him to his deep, deep pondering. And tries to make her way back to an alley where her cloak remains unseen.
As Poppy walks her way back, she's greeted by the sight on the far end of town, her uncle and Vianne. Seeing all the blackcoats busy directing and shouting at the hairkin, she makes her way to greet them.
Vianne has a clear line of sight on Poppy. She sees a joy in the young woman's step. Some sort of victory. She must have found what she was looking for. The tension of that earlier panic can just start to melt away from Vianne's shoulders when she hears a sudden caw ring out above them in the sky. And a chill washes down her spine.
There's confidence there. There is a smirk on her face that you have never seen before, a cockiness, maybe even it's veering into now as she moves, and she's never felt so powerful doing something like this. She's never felt so powerful without a weapon in her hand. And maybe she begins to wonder if this is what Vianne has felt all of her life as well. And as she reaches them, it's relief. She got through it.
And as the three of you are relieved and start to make your way towards the alley, you have a clear sight of the river that runs through this settlement, the Violette River. The three of you see a barge coming down the river and making its way towards the dock in the settlement of Lorraine. On this barge, you can see 4-5 dozen blue coats of the Frost Guard. You watch in shock as they pull in and hop off, and they tie their barge down. The hare can have noticed at this point.
Right. I think we have stayed here quite long enough. We are going to have to make an exit.
Poppy quickly shucks on the cloak and pulls up the hood.
Pulls the hood back down. That just makes it more suspicious. There are so many hairkin here. Why'd one have their hood pulled up?
I'm more worried of the ones that I was just working with, seeing me leave.
I don't know. I got that. Where'd you go running off like that? You didn't think we wouldn't find you? He says out loud as they make their way to the gate.
As they walk towards the gate, they can see that the Frostguard who have just arrived do indeed just not really notice. They have harsh words with the man that you saw, Esteban. And Poppy sees the Echevin, Severin, come out and speak with them as well. And they bicker and they argue and they get animated and heated. As the three of you try to slip past, I want the three of you to make a group stealth check for me.
That was a 4. So, there's a moment of hesitation, and then Harlan gathers himself and, using his heroic inspiration, is going to re-roll that die. That was a 2.
Oh, no.
So I will stick with the 4 for a total of 11.
Poppy rolled a 2 plus 8 for a 10.
Oh, I'm sorry, you guys. Oh. If you're telling me that Vienne, who did not spec stealth, just rolled the best, I got a 19.
I think you might have rolled the best.
So that is a combined 40.
Oh my gosh.
The three of you try to quietly slip past. One of the black coats reaches his arm out and says, Whoa, 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 stop right there. Stop right there. Where are you going? Are you mad? The blue coats are here. You have to stay here and stay quiet.
We're not from here, friend.
I don't care if you sucked on Inga's tits herself. You are staying right here and you will be silent.
All right. My goodness. But we'll stay if you insist.
Just be silent. And he stands right next to you as the Frostguard are still in heated conversation with the Echevin. As the three of you stand there, Harlan, out of habit, turns and takes a look into the woods, keeping an eye out. And his trained eye spots something that makes his heart skip a beat. There's movement in the woods. He looks closer. Guerrilla tactics.
He squeezes Vianne's arm.
Like as if they've been doing this for years. She enters his mind. Yes?
Something moving in the woods. Looks like trained troops. Yeah.
We can use this.
And almost on cue, you hear from the distant woods and gunshots erupt from the forest, and they strike Frostguard left and right. Men drop and begin to scream as Beastkin fighters storm from out of the forest and begin opening fire. The Pat Rouge storm the blue-coated Frostguard, bayonets fixed to their rifles, and it's carnage as men are shot in every direction. Men are stabbed through the gut with bayonets. As you duck, you see from the forest a shimmering blue ray of frost emerge from the tree line and strike a Frostguard in the chest, dropping him to the ground. As the Frostguards scream out, "Saucier! Saucier!" It is chaos. What do you do?
Vienne is no stranger to the pulses of chaos in a crowd. She navigates it deftly through Vanois, through the survival in Alizé, and there is a hidden orchestra to playing panic like a violin. She knows that if she's going to get the most eyes pointed away from them, it must be towards something worse. There's always a weak spot. Poppy mentioned these were glowing stones, and these hairkin have been so delicate with them. There's not a chance it couldn't possibly be. I guess we'll find out if it's Glimmerstone or not. With one hand, she reaches back towards Poppy. Get ready to run. And Vienne casts Eldritch Blast at the crate that is just by the feet of the most decorated Frostguard soldier, Exshindo.
An invisible wave warps the air around Vienne's outstretched hand, and it propels itself rapidly through the air, striking the crate, breaking it open, and hitting the Glimmerstone inside. It happens in an instant. The same explosive force that the three of you witnessed in Vanois happens again, and it rocks everyone in the area, and you all fall to your feet. More explosions are set off, and in a row, every single wagon, carriage, wheelbarrow with a crate in it explodes in a chain reaction, rocking the entire settlement. In the aftermath, with men screaming out and calling for help, the three of you find yourselves unscathed as you stand up and look at the carnage around you.
We're never going to get a better distraction. And the horse take all three of us.
Not happily, no. He turns and he sees Poppy's horrified face. Not now. Can't feel right now. We'll be Tom later. But right now we gotta go. Grabbing the reins, he directs them as quickly as possible towards the gates.
As the three of you run past the city gates with Alfie in tow, you run past the bodies of men and women, motionless and bloody. You pass through the tree line and into the forest, where your steps slowly fade away until they are heard no more. And that's where we end our session.
Oof. Bravo, man. Bravo.
Bravo.
Man.
Do we need one last stealth check to make sure we get out? Or
Now
no?
you're good.
Okay.
Nah, they're dead.
Wowza.
Picking dice.
Love it.
Can I just point out Kenny saying, yeah, everything's going to be fine unless you guys murder hobo. And then we murder hoboed.
That end, I would argue, is not quite. That,
Oh, it's pretty murder hobo. I don't know.
We killed a lot of people.
We killed a lot of people?
I mean...
Yeah, I'm. There's a second where I would have thought that Harlan would have said no and tried to knock your hand away when he saw what you were going to do. He's definitely murdered people to accomplish his ends before. But yeah.
When have you ever gotten so much XP off of one Eldritch Blast? Come on.
No.
Oh boy.
If only this was an XP campaign.
oh, I love it.
Are you saying we're all level 12 now, right? Is that the way it works?
Yeah, you just jump straight up. This is what happens when the DM puts explosive barrels around the battlefield. It's just like, guys are there.
For me.
I'm gonna shoot it.
Oh.
I'm gonna shoot it. I'm gonna shoot it.
I have to.
If you'd like to
Red,
sneak
yeah,
peek,
it's
you can
there.
find
I
the
have to
rest
shoot
of this post-session chat and much more on our Patreon. Also, if you'd like to interact with myself or our fabulous cast, or just chat with fellow fans, please join our Discord. Links to both are included in the description. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.